Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today we're going to be taking a look at this vehicle here. This car had actually stalled out and died, and we went ahead and brought it back here. So what we're going to be doing is diagnosing what the problem is, getting it fixed, getting it back in tip-top shape and running again. Let's go ahead and get started. Now what the driver of the vehicle, which happened to be my wife, what she mentioned happened before the car completely stalled out. She was driving down the road. Electric started going wacky, windows opening and closing, a radio going off and on. Then the car started jerking around a little bit. The brakes were hard to press, just all kind of things whacking out. Then the car pretty much just conked out at that point. She was safely able to drift into a parking lot where she left it. Then I was able to go later that evening, get it started so I could get it back here to work on it and shoot this video. Now, a lot of things to consider when things start quirking out like that with the electric. You're looking at the electric system, which is going to usually consist of issues probably with the alternator, battery cables, sometimes even the link to your fuse box area. That connection there can also be wacky, causing things to short out and go crazy. Now, 9 out of 10 times this is going to be the alternator, but to ensure that that's the case, because you don't want to just be making assumptions, purchasing parts and things like that, that can get costly, and then you don't wind up solving the problem anyway, and then you spent 10 times as much to finally fix it, when if you took the time to diagnose things properly, you just buy what you need. So we're going to go through, we're going to test the battery, we're going to test the battery cables, we're going to test the alternator, kind of work through that, see what the case may be, fix whatever needs to be fixed at that point, and then that will hopefully get this thing up and running. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to try to get the car started again so we can try to emulate the issues that happened, or at least something, so we can kind of see exactly what she encountered when she was driving it. And then we'll get the hood popped, we'll start testing stuff, swap out whatever we need to, and we'll kind of explain things along the way, so hopefully for you, the viewers, it'll make sense, it'll be easy to follow. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and try it. All right, the gauges are all coming up. Now, I did give the battery a charge in order to get it here, so we might be getting some juice off of that. Let's go ahead and try to start it and see what it does. I'm concerned right here, because you'll see it normally once you start your engine, you're going to be around 14 to 15 volts because the alternator's kicking in and doing its thing. You see the battery lights flashing, and you see how low this thing is right here. That's not a good sign. Actually, the car is shaking a little bit. Ignore that clicking noise in the background. That's just because the battery was dead at one point. It's just resetting. But yep, definitely an issue there. Could be the battery, but considering the engine's running, very, 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 very hot. Well, there it goes. Let's see what, no, but look at that. It's dropping. It's actually dropping more and more and more. Yeah, it looks like it's probably the alternator, but let's check everything to make sure. Ignore this. I need to replace the oil pressure sensor, so I know people are going to want to send comments about that. Don't worry about it. I'm aware of it. All right, let's pop the hood and let's see what's going on as this is running. Let's pop this open. The battery is under this little cap here, so I have to remove the battery cables to take it out. But it sounds very, very weak. Let's go back in and take a look and see what's going on the gauge. Okay, this voltage is almost completely bottomed out. This car is going to stall out soon. Look at that. All the way down the needle. Let's get a test on it real quick and see what's up. All right, this is pathetic. Normally you're looking at about 12.5 volts on a good battery. We're teetering around 9 flat. This thing is pretty much gone at this point to the max. So it's definitely being drained. Let's test the alternator. ground it right here on the casing of it. Same thing. All right, let me shut it off. I went ahead and removed that cover over the battery. That way we have access to the terminals and everything. I'm going to go ahead and start the vehicle again. We're going to go ahead and do a quick alternator test where you can have the vehicle running. If you disconnect the negative battery cable, if the alternator is functioning properly, the car will remain running. Now keep in mind, you need to be careful doing it this way because you can damage parts of your electrical system. I've always done it, but please just keep in mind you're doing it at your own risk because I'm not responsible if anything gets damaged. But let's go ahead and do that. That's just a quick test, and then let's see how that works, and then we'll go to the next step. We'll test the battery, do a load test, all that. Hopefully it'll even start the way the battery voltage is looking. Nope, I don't think we have enough juice to even start this thing. Try again. Yeah, it's dead. We'll try one more time because the voltage went up just a little bit. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Okay, as we just saw, this thing's completely gone. Let me check this battery. As we saw, the voltage was dropping a lot. It was down to below 9, but I forgot to mention, when I did get this back last night, I did connect this battery up to my charger, so I did have it to around, I think it was like 12.1, 12.4 volts. So this thing clearly got drained because it dropped down to, I think it was 8.95 or whatever. So most likely it's this guy right here, the alternator. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go through and show the testing process. Let's test this battery, and then I'll see if I can get it started again. I do have a replacement battery for this, so that way we can test the load on the alternator and see how that's working as well. Okay, put that up so you guys can see what's going on. Let me go ahead and test this thing. All right, well, the battery is showing 10.2, which is still technically considered dead. And if I test out here on the terminals, all right, there we go, same thing. Let me disconnect the battery, and let's see exactly what's what. All right, let's see, because it could be the battery cables, which I doubt, but like I said, for the sake of this video, we're going to show. Now we're at 10.5, still bad. I'm going to reconnect it. Reconnect the battery, see if we can get it to start again. And then if not, we're just going to put in a new battery. All right, swap batteries. Let's make sure that this one's good, which we know it is, but for the sake of this video. Let's go ahead and start it, and then we're going to do the quick alternator test, disconnecting the ground, and see what happens. There we go. And the gauge in here is still not going up to 14. Battery light's on. I don't want to kill this new battery, but let's just take this off real quick. Okay, there you have it. This baby's gone. If you want to see my video on how to test an alternator where I show an example of doing that and what it should do, you can check it out via the link above. I'll also put the link to it in the description of this video. But it looks like this is the guy right here. So let me go ahead and get everything put back on with the battery so we can get this alternator swapped out and then get this car back in shape. One more thing that you want to check before you completely throw the towel in on the alternator and spend your money on a new one, make sure that the belt is good. If it's loose or if there's damage to it, it could be slipping, which could be causing the problem as well. So let's go ahead and take a look in here. This belt is actually in very good shape. And let's see the tension on it. Yeah, tension is great. Definitely not the belt. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, disconnect this battery, so we can take the belt off and get this alternator out of here, swap it out, and then that should take care of our issue. We'll give the car a test run, make sure everything's good before we wrap it up. The battery has been disconnected, which before you do anything, you want to get that off because you don't want to cause any shorts and damage to your system or ECU. So the battery's been disconnected. I've also gone ahead here, I didn't show you and bore you with all the details, but the belt was removed on this particular vehicle here. Now just to mention really quick, what I'm working on here is a Chevy Trailblazer. So if that's the vehicle you're having problems with the alternator, I did do a full video showing how to replace the alternator on a Trailblazer where I show how to remove the belt, all that. You can check that out via the link above. I'll also have a link down in the description for that. So one thing that I wanted to show right here, now that that's off, listen to this. You can hear it squeaking, which right there is an indication you've got bad bearings in here as well. So this alternator had a few things going wrong with it. I'm going to go ahead and get that off. I'm not going to show that because this is specific to this vehicle. Like I said, if you do have a Trailblazer, I have a video that shows it in detail. I'm going to go ahead and get this off, swapped out for the new one, and then we'll be back to reconnect everything and test it, and then see how it's going after that. I just finished swapping out the alternator. But before I connect the belt back on, listen to this. Quiet as a mouse. That's how it should be, not that squeaking kind of grinding noise that we had before. So let me go ahead. I'm going to connect the belt up. We're going to go ahead and connect everything here on the back. We'll go ahead and start the engine. Check the voltage coming out of the battery, which should be at the 12.2425 before we start it. After we start it, you should see it go up around 14 or higher at the battery, and then we'll also test it at the alternator, and then we'll go ahead and do a load test, and then we'll go ahead and remove the negative cable like we did at the beginning, and I'll show you how the car should remain running, and then that should conclude this, and this car is good to go. Battery's been connected, belt's back on, everything here is good. Let's go ahead and test the voltage coming out of the battery, and then we'll test it going into the alternator, make sure that all the connections are good. And then we'll go ahead and start it up, run another test on both. We'll do a load test, make sure everything is good. So let me go ahead and get the multimeter. Let's test the battery. All right, we're looking at 12.2829, somewhere in that range. Either way, we're good. Let's head over and do the alternator. We have our power coming in from the battery, the 12 volts connecting here. We're going to ground it here on the casing itself. And let's see what we get. Okay, 12.29 as well, so we know that everything's connected good. Let's fire it up, and then it should go up to 14 volts or higher. And then we'll also check on the gauge inside and then do the load test. See here. Now that's what you want to see. Slightly above 14. Alternator is doing its job. Let's look at it a little bit longer. The other way around, it was bouncing all over the place, but either way, it wasn't that high. It was just around the 14 itself, and then it would just drop all the way down, and then we saw what happened after that. But looking good. Let's go outside and test it. That's what you want to see right there. Just around 14. And that's what you're looking for right there, around 14 volts. Let's go ahead and put it on the alternator and test that as well. Excellent. Around 14.2, give or take. But that's what you want to see, not the stuff we saw there at the beginning. Now I'm going to do the other test. I'm going to go ahead, disconnect the battery, and I'll show you what the vehicle should do if the alternator is good. Negative battery cable is completely off. Car is running great. Alternator is doing its job. We're good to go. Put this back on. Let's do a quick load test. I'm going to go in the vehicle. We're going to fire up everything. All right. We're to turn on AC. Radio is on, but the volume's down because of copyright issues. And let's see here. Headlights are on as well. Now let's check the load test on it, see how it's doing. Put this here so you can see what kind of reading we're getting. With full load on, it should 13.7, so it did drop a little bit. Now, really what you want to do, but I can't because I don't have somebody here to help me, but you want to kind of accelerate a little bit, get the RPMs up around 2,000 when you're doing that. But either way, you can see here, still running great, 16.7, 13.7, good. Shut everything off. Everything is checking out good, as we just saw. Final test, I'm going to go ahead and take it for a drive. Let me put the battery cap back on it, get everything put back together under here. Then let's take it for a spin. We'll check the voltage gauge, make sure nothing quirky happens, and I think we'll wrap it up. So I'm here driving, and the voltage is still looking great. Normally it would be fluctuating and it would have started dropping already. It's been solid at around 14, so it looks pretty good. So we'll finish driving up here and then we'll head back. Headed back now. As we just saw, everything looks great. Alternator's replaced, voltage is running great, car's running great. So, ready to wrap this up. Headed back. Just drove over 20 miles, just running some errands. Voltage has been excellent. Even when the load is on with air conditioning, radio, everything like that, it drops to what it's normally would drop to when it's under load. Other than that, it's doing great. So that looks like that takes care of it. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up this project here on getting this car diagnosed and repaired. As mentioned before, this vehicle had completely quirked out, stalled out on the side of the road, left my wife stranded. Went ahead and got it back here. We followed the process of diagnosing it and fixing it. So I hope this video was informative for you. I hope it might have helped you out with any projects you're working on with a vehicle that maybe died. If you have any questions, comments, please send them in. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate all the support. So please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.